Oh my god, she's a weirdo.
Hello, 'tis I, Fat Cow. Red lipstick. It means I'm feeling sassy. Well, there's a lot of things to comment on, especially after last night. But before I share my opinions on this whole thing, there are two things I want to state. One is an opinion backed up by a shitload of evidence, and the second is a fact based on my over a decade experience of living in the Middle East, being married to a Middle Eastern Muslim man. The first thing, the thing that's not a fact, but is an opinion that I back up 100%, is I still say this marriage is a scam, and I don't see any evidence to the contrary. In fact, what's been said seems to reinforce that even more. The relationship is a scam in terms of Salah's sole intention of being involved with Foodie was for money and nothing else. The second fact is that in the Middle East and other similar cultures, the family's bloodline is entirely male. Therefore, if Salah is the only son of his father, he is the only person who can create a legitimate heir to the bloodline and keep the family name going. If he has daughters, the family name stops. If he has a son, the family name continues. His sisters will not continue the family line. If they have children, a male child, they're continuing their husband's family line. So if Salah doesn't have any children at all, the family name ends with him. If he has daughters, the family name ends with him. If he has a son, the family name continues. And that is an immensely important thing to the Middle Eastern culture and similar cultures. In fact, a little tidbit here, when you name your child in the Middle East, you give them the first name that you want, say Mohammed. The second name is the father's name, so it would be Mohammed Salah. The third name is the grandfather's name, so Mohammed Salah Abdul, for example. And then the family name. Okay? Mohammed Salah, father, Abdul, grandfather, family name Rafi. When you name your girl children, it's exactly the same, apart from obviously the first name, say Yasmin. The girl's name will be Yasmin Salah Abdul Rafi. Father, grandfather, family name. That's how you keep the lineage and the family tree intact. And when the woman marries another man, she doesn't take his surnames or anything because it's not her family name. She keeps her family name, Yasmin Salah Abdul Rafi, so that you know who her family is. She doesn't take on her husband's name. So the lineage, the family tree, the link is completely fraternal and is seriously important unless you want your family name to end, which nobody really does. So this wanting Salah to have kids thing isn't a sudden thing he wouldn't have been aware of. It's a very, very ingrained cultural thing. Now, I am of the opinion that this whole fleeing to Canada crap, she's coming back. Of course she's coming back. has to do with one thing and one thing only: children. And I don't believe it's that Salah is saying, I'm going to divorce you and take on another wife to get children. I think his family are strongly implying, take a second wife and have children. Now that scenario is worse for Foodie than just getting divorced and leaving the country, because staying with Salah but sharing Salah intimately and his attention to another woman is something Foodie, despite what she said when she very first met Salah and was told about the second wife scenario, would tolerate at all. Plus, she's having a hard time sharing Salah with the family anyway. Imagine that was with another wife and kids in the same property. Absolutely unthinkable as far as Foodie's concerned. She legitimately thinks she trumps the family name and lineage, and trumps any suggestion of children. Now she says the family disapproves of her because she's Western and old and cannot have children because she's old. Are you completely ignoring the fact that you can't have children, not because you're 41, because a lot of women have children in their 40s, it's because you've had a hysterectomy. If he'd met you 10 years previously, I think, 5 years previously, you still couldn't have given him children because you've had a hysterectomy. And also, you don't want children. Which leads up to your whole questioning, Foodie, of why would he marry a Western woman in the first place, knowing she couldn't have children? Because he never considered you a serious relationship with happily ever after, till death do us part, have a family together crap, or not crap, depending on your opinion. He considered you a cash cow, a piggy bank, and he had every intention of one day either giving you the boot when your money had run dry, or getting a second wife to start his actual family with. And if he was a very conservative man, as you said, very conservative, why would he have been on international Tinder in the first place, soliciting the attention of Western women, unveiled Western women? Doesn't sound particularly conservative to me. Anyway, I'm going back quite a few streams because I missed quite a bit, because I actually took a break from watching anything on YouTube, let alone girl world stuff, and it's not that difficult actually. Anyway, Foodie, if she legitimately wanted to go to Canada, could go immediately. Because in order to have entered Lebanon, Beirut, Turkey, wherever she entered initially, she would have had proof of a return ticket to Canada, or she wouldn't have been allowed to enter. She already has a return ticket. She could change it and go back tomorrow or the next couple of days, depending on availability. She didn't need the ticket money. She has the ticket already. She has to enter another country, which requires visas and things to prove she doesn't intend to stay. She is using this threat of leaving permanently in a way to manipulate Salah to go against the wishes of his family, and that's to take a second wife. Again, if she really wanted to leave, she could leave immediately. She has a ticket and she should crash with her family. If you needed to leave that badly, you wouldn't wait until you'd accrued $10,000. You have the ticket. You have somewhere you can stay. Granted, you can't stream from there, but you have somewhere you could stay. You're procrastinating this leaving because you are trying to emotionally, financially blackmail Salah. Additionally, you said you don't have your bank card because Salah gave it to a man to go to Lebanon to get your cash for you. I thought you didn't need money where you are. I thought Salah paid for anything. Why do you need cash? Why do you need dollars? Well, because you're actually paying for anything, you cash cow. You stupid, naive cash cow. It is a romance scam. And yes, you've been together for 3 years, but I know of romance scams that lasted decades. Again, the man had children with the woman he married. It was only once he got his actual passport to be in the country that he left the wife and the children. There's much more complicated, detailed and long-term romance scams than just this 3 years of crap that you have endured. Again, this is very random, but my thoughts are very random. You want first and last rent. Seriously. And you want a villa. Seriously. What landlord, what sane landlord would rent a 2 or 3 bedroom villa to, one, a man who's on welfare, and 2, a woman that has no rent or credit history for the last 3 years, except for a brief break-in of a contract that lasted less than a week? You cannot get an apartment in your name, Foodie. Not a decent one, and not one that's worth the money you're asking for at all. You said that Salah is more affectionate now that you're separating. Well, it's very easy to keep up a pretense when you know it's going to end. You've just got to push through it. Additionally, you're always saying you're separating, but never use the word divorce. So you're staying married. You're staying married. That doesn't sound like moving to Canada permanently to me. Another observation, if she expressed even 50%, no, let's say 25% of the emotion and affection she has towards Nashi sandwiches than she did towards Salah or Julia, we may have stood a chance of believing this relationship was somehow more of an actual relationship. You said that Salah says if you remove your hijab and you start beezing, it's over. And you said that to be with Salah you have to be a hijabi. Then why did he approach you on international Tinder, a non-hijabi, in the first place, if the hijabi was a make it or break it thing? No, it's you he wants covered for reasons that only he can say, but we can speculate. Maybe Salah's putting his foot down and asking you to be more traditional so that you're more acceptable to his family, so he doesn't have to kick you out of Syria and take another wife. He can keep you, you cash cow, and have a second wife if you actually knuckled down and did what was expected of you in a marriage to a Muslim man of that culture. You are expected to present a certain level of cooperation, let's say. And you said that all marriages in the Middle East are like yours, with the woman taking a subservient and traditional role and being hijabi and things, and you just got to watch 90 Day Fiancé to see that this is how it is. My marriage, my husband refused, didn't allow me to be a hijabi. He also didn't like me wearing skirts and dresses. He liked me wearing trousers, which is completely opposite to the traditional role. And while I was expected to be a good hostess and keep things clean to a certain extent, I was not forced into a subservient role. I placed myself into one to pacify him. It wasn't directly demanded at me, it was implied. But in terms of the dress and the religion, he took me out drinking. We smoked weed together. We hung around in groups of men and women. We never separated into groups of just women and just men, not once. It wasn't expected. it's a different cultural thing within the culture. It's let's say a more progressive thought process, probably afforded to people who are of a slightly wealthier demographic, let's say. Yes, I'm saying my Middle Eastern Muslim husband was significantly more affluent than yours, so near, but he still was an absolute complete arsehole and a narcissist. But that has nothing to do with culture or religion, it's to do with him. So he stayed an extra day without your permission. He told you he was staying an extra day. It's not him, it's him and 16 people decided to stay an extra day, and then just you. You have no say. I had no say where I was going either. I had no control over where I was going. But again, that's not necessarily cultural or religious, it's more to do with my husband being an asshole. She's also trying to get him away from Syria and his family. She likes to isolate men from their families and any outside influence, or chooses men who have no outside influence, which is all fine and dandy in Kuwait because he didn't have that much. But she says he has changed for the worse since arriving to Syria. No, he has more family. He has the opportunity to create a life, and he created the life and then told you, Foodie, not to come. But you did anyway. Being told not to come was a very good indication that his direction was going to change significantly from yours. But you're a stubborn cow, a stubborn cash cow, and did it anyway. In terms of PayPal, PayPal said you cannot use your PayPal while you're in Syria, even though your account is outside Syria. The fact of the matter is, using your PayPal doesn't mean just withdrawing money. It actually includes receiving donations in the first place. And anyone who sends donations to your account while you're in Syria is actually kind of fucking up themselves at the same time, because it's not sanctioned. The PayPal is dead to you while you're in Syria. You cannot withdraw the money, you cannot handle the money, you cannot move the money, and you're not allowed to receive the money either. In fact, in America, PayPal can shit very hard on people that send money to you in Syria. So your Beezers should be thankful for that. She says that she's not problematic anymore, i.e. the last 3 years she's been a better person than she was previously. You're equally as problematic, but in a different way. The only reason you're not more problematic than you were was the inability to get hold of alcohol and drugs. And that is the only difference between you now and you then. It's not finding God. It's not trying to be better. It's literally not having access to the drugs that allow you to be yourself. So it's not change. It was forced upon you. You claim that the Middle East don't understand mental illness. Well, it's not mental illness that is stopping you from doing activities with your family. It's you being lazy, unhealthy, and happy to sit at home and stuff your face. That's not mental illness, that's gluttony and laziness. So stop using the mental illness card. Just stop it. It's not representative and it's not fair. You said that you feel bad because you freaked out at him and that it was a self-defense that caused you to do it because you thought he was going to make you go away on the trip. Really? So you told him that you don't want to do anything with him because you're separating, as self-defense for somebody suggesting you go on a family trip. Well, that's a really lame excuse, Foodie. You said he looked hurt and shocked. I think he looked shocked. I don't think he was hurt by it. He's probably quite pleased. You said that he doesn't take your feelings or ask how you're doing into consideration at all, and that while you're still there in Syria, he is obligated because you have an agreement. Well, that sounds like an arrangement, a contract, not a marriage. He's not obligated to do anything. In fact, that is, you're not obligated to do anything, and you definitely don't do anything. You said you are turned off by the whole family thing, and that once you're turned off, it's over. That's because you don't deal with your own family. You can't tolerate your own family. That's because you don't deal with your own family. You can't tolerate family. You can't tolerate people taking attention away from you. You want one person to focus on you exclusively. And, well, that's Pete, by the way. But he's just not romantically into you. He is in love with you and he is very loyal, but I suspect that's because, one, his neurodivergency has put you on a pinnacle and blinded him to your faults, probably in part because you're the only person he's actually had sex with, ever. So there's that. Because you didn't allow him to have girlfriends once you broke up with him, which is cruel and very possessive and makes you an absolute wanker. You feel that Salah's family has brainwashed him. No, they've just merely stated what's expected of him as a Middle Eastern Muslim male. They haven't brainwashed him. He always knew. He always intended to. You were just never a part of this, apart from being the cash pig. If you really are a Muslim, as you claim, regardless of whether you stay a hijabi or not, if you truly believe in the God you claim to truly believe in, you're not allowed to date after this. Just saying. Hello, it's editing me. One other thing. You will never, in my experience, come before a Middle Eastern man and his family. Even if that family is dysfunctional and they basically hate each other, you will never be a priority over the family. Never. You cannot diss the father, you especially cannot diss the mother, you cannot express your feelings honestly. For example, you can't say your mother's a bit of a bully. I'm not talking by experience here, without getting a very negative reaction. They will defend their family to their last dying breath over you if you get in a disagreement with the family. You don't stand a chance as the wife of doing that. So, no. If you enter that particular culture, as with many cultures, you cannot expect to come above their family. And your kids, should you have any, come above you also. You're not, in my experience, this is, I'm not, tarring everybody with the same brush, but in my experience, regardless of what the family is like and how well they get on with the son, you as his wife will not be a priority. Again, I'd like to point out she always says separating, not divorcing, so this relationship isn't ending, and she will be back because she cannot stand not seeing what Salah's up to, especially now the second wife arc is upon us. So Foodie, you have to decide. First wife to a second wife, or no wife at all? Because that's basically what you're faced with. Editing me. Now this is a cultural thing. It might pertain to other cultures, not just Middle Eastern, but it is a cultural thing. Son of a bitch is offensive towards the mother of the son. In Arabic, it would be something similar like Ibn Shumuta, son of a bitch. Well, son of a whore, actually. and it is a direct insult of the female parentage of the individual it's aimed at. In the West, we don't think much of it. I mean, also in the Middle East, if you call somebody a donkey, it's extremely offensive, but you wouldn't think so, you know? Cultural differences, yeah, you insulted his mother. You said you can keep a house clean. The only reason you keep your current situation clean and the Kuwaiti situation clean is because Salah insists. You by yourself or you with Pete, absolutely no way on earth. You are an absolute slob, and it's only because you are pressured to clean that you clean. You said the hijab is cultural, not religious, so you're kind of backing up from the hijabi thing. You said you chose the hijab, but that Salah wouldn't date you if you didn't, and now you're making it very obvious that the hijab is Salah's requirement and that you became veiled for a man, when the only entity you should veil for is God. Again, this relationship is still a romance scam about money, and it's more obvious it's a romance scam about money. If there was a really long-term, for the rest of your life plan behind it, it was for you to finance his lifestyle so he could take a second wife. Now let's talk about this whole multiple wife things in Islam. The Quran states a man has the right to take a second, third or fourth wife only under these circumstances. If he treats every wife identically, he spends the same amount of time with both of them, the same amount of money on both of them, the same amount of affection on both of them, has the same amount of sex with both of them. He has to be able to spend or treat all wives identically or only have one. That is the stipulation to having multiple wives. You can't favour one wife over another. But because you're not a wife, in terms of how he sees you, you're a cash pig, he can treat the second wife better on your dime. So that's great news for you. Again, you're saying the family hates you because you're not traditional and you're too old and can't have children. You're not too old to have children. You can't have children because you have a hysterectomy. It's not your age. And Salah being a young man and fooling around, he's not a young man, he's not 19. And if he really, really has, you have to be a hijabi to be with me as his preference, why did he go after Kaibela, who isn't a hijabi? And why did he go after you when you weren't a hijabi? I call bullshit on that one. He just wants you to cover up. Gosh, I wonder why. He's not brainwashed. He's not brainwashed, not at all. He's always known his role as, presumably, the only male in his sibling group. It's his job to provide a male heir to keep the family line going. He didn't need his family to tell him that, but he might have realised it better now that he's surrounded by family and has a life that can afford, not financially, but in terms of a lifestyle that can provide for a family. He always wanted kids, just not with you. And he knew you couldn't, and that actually benefited him because he didn't want kids with you. He just wanted your money. You said that Salah lets your entire family talk crap about you and never stands up for you and always insults you. How do you know? The only way you know that's what his family is saying is because Salah tells you that's what they're saying. Why is he telling you? He doesn't have to tell you what your family thinks, his family thinks of you. He's doing that to get you to compromise or go. You said that Salah thinks you're no use to me anymore. Well, you're not, because you're losing money by the bucket load every month. You are no use to him. Your only use was money, and that's going. Your mood between the life where you feared for your life, which was really pathetic in terms of acting, you know, the hyperventilating and the sobbing and the sniffing. It sounded like, you know, the opening up of one of those really cliche horror movies in the 80s where the girl is running away in her bra for whatever reason and being chased by the guy. That's what you were doing. There was no authenticity in it. You were legitimately angry and legitimately pissed off, but you were not scared for your life. I know what being scared for your life looks like because I've lived it. And that wasn't it. Your mood changed after that live to the second live, and the only thing I can presume is Salah got his cousin to chuck a shawarma over the wall to you, or possibly pass it through the fence if there was a gate, because obviously, girl, you weren't yourself until you had a Snickers. Before getting your food, you, and after getting your food, you are completely, entirely different beasts. That I'm scared crap wasn't you being scared, it's you, well, it was you being scared, but not of Salah. It's scared of not having food. You're a food addict and you didn't have your drug of choice, and so you had a hissy fit online and said some very egregious things that cannot be taken back. Not by any self-respecting Middle Eastern Muslim man, no. But Salah isn't a self-respecting Middle Eastern man. He's a romance scammer who wants you for your money. And that's why it's okay now. You're his cash cow. I say it again, you're his cash cow, you're his money pig. And you also said that you can come here and be with your perfect family. This whole crap, this whole bullshit's about children. And you're saying, but he knew I couldn't have children, he knew I couldn't have children. Yeah, he knew you couldn't have children. That's how he wanted you, because he only wants your cash. He always was going to have children with somebody else, Foodie. The only difference, again, is whether you accept a second wife and you're the first wife, but not really because you're the cash pig, or whether you leave and he has a first wife who can produce children for him. You also said that you didn't have your bank card because Salah had given it to another person to get to Lebanon to get cash out from you because it's payday in YouTube land. I thought you didn't need money. I thought Salah paid for everything. Why do you need cash? Or rather, does Salah need cash from you, the pay pig? Salah, your pay monthly hubby. Because you have to give him money every month, or else you're no use to him. And you're progressively getting less useful because your earning potential has taken a nosedive. You said that since Syria the relationship's become more toxic. No, since Syria, Salah has realised he needs to have kids. It's expected of him, and you don't like it. This whole entire arc, this buggering off to Canada, which is emotional blackmail, trying to persuade or dissuade Salah from taking a second wife and having kids. But this whole, she's going back. There's no way on this earth she would voluntarily leave a man. Because although Pete fulfills everything she wants, which is basically someone to do everything for her, to wait on her hand and foot, to clean up after her, and to clean her when it gets to that point, Salah's handsome and Pete isn't. So Salah, she's going back to him. But this whole thing, this whole raising money, this whole everything, is about children and Foodie not wanting Salah to have children, which is his right. You, the pay pig, the cash cow, was never an option in terms of legitimate family life and spending the rest of the life with. You're only useful while you produce money. And you're not doing a very good job at that, are you? Anyway, might be a bit blunt, might be a bit rambly. Lots of thoughts and lots of notes were taken while listening to things, and this is just the order things came in. Foodie fucked about and is now finding out. She was under some sort of delusion that she could make Salah love her, and then make Salah love her so much he would forget about what's expected of him in his culture and his religion. She thought she would be enough because she's that arrogant and narcissistic, when at the end of the day she's just a wallet for Salah's lifestyle. And she fucked it up in Kuwait, which she said, incidentally, he was paid to leave by the perfume company. It doesn't sound like it was necessarily his idea to leave. He was paid to leave. He was paid off, to cover up the money laundering, all the drug stuff that they're doing. But that was mentioned in another video. Foodie, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You are a fucking idiot. You've put your beaders at risk by allowing them to still pay into your PayPal, because you're not allowed to use the account at all in any way, shape or form while you're in Syria. And they are at risk of legal ramifications by sending you money while you're in Syria. But you don't care about that shit, do you? And 2, you're not nearly as important in Salah's life as you thought you were. Again, the entire relationship is a romance scam for money. And that's it. And one final thing, while I think about it. Salah's family would like you to be more subservient, more traditional, because they want you to fit in with the dynamic. So they're not necessarily wanting you to go. They want you to compromise, because you're shaming them. You are shameful. You are bringing their reputation down. Now, presumably, they know you're just a pay pig, and probably everybody else in the neighbourhood knows you're being used as a pay pig. But still, appearances matter a lot, and you are shaming the family by being yourself more than the family is shamed by using you as a pay pig. So, yay you.